Hello, and welcome to this video presentation for EGX Digital 2020. In this video, I'm going to be exploring the subject of taking a games design degree at university. Should you take a course in video games design, or should you just try to learn independently, or should you try to get a job straight away? Well, obviously the answer is going to be different for different people, but in this video, I'm going to try to give you the reasons why for most people taking a course is a great idea. Now, my name is Alan Thorne. I'm the head of games at the National Film and Television School in the United Kingdom, just outside of London. It's a higher education institution. It's a film school where people learn all different kinds of creative disciplines, including video games. Now, being the head of games, that means I have the great privilege of working with students from all across the world who want to learn how to make video games. I get to help them do that. So in this video, we're going to look at some major reasons where I'm going to try to detail why it's a great idea to take a course, an MA postgraduate course in video games development, as opposed to going it alone or just trying to get a job straight away. First of all, let me say that the question as to, is it a good idea to take a degree at all? That's a perfectly reasonable question. After all, if you log online and you look at YouTube, you'll see a ton of video content, tutorials showing you how to make video games. And if that's not good enough, you can try other online learning platforms where for a pretty small, minimal cost, you can learn how to make video games. Why shouldn't you take those instead? Well, there are quite a few reasons why not, and we'll get to the bottom of that. So over the course of this video, we're going to look at 8 reasons. 8 major reasons why you should take a course in video game design and development if you want a career in games. Let's see what they are. Now, the first reason you might study a games course is that they're a fast track. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. Consider, for example, the fact that games are a really technical discipline. There are different aspects to games development: programming, games design, 3D art, animation, music composition. There are many different places to begin. And if you wanted to learn all of that independently without the benefit of a course, then you'll need to go and check out the online tutorials and learn a bit of everything. But of course, there are hundreds and thousands of different tutorials out there. How do you know if you're beginning in the right place? And even if you do begin in the right place, how do you know that you're progressing correctly to the next stage and in the right order? Even if you take a tutorial, perhaps it's 2 hours, 3 hours, is it 3 hours well spent? It could be that you get to the end of the 3 hours and you're not really sure about how things worked out. You're not sure if it was a good investment of your time. If you add that up over days, weeks, months, and maybe even years, it could be that the length of time you need to properly learn games development is a very long time indeed. But if you go onto a course, you're going to be supervised by tutors who didn't begin their career as tutors. Many of them began their career as games developers and then later became tutors themselves. So they're bringing with them a lot of industry knowledge and experience. And if you total up that knowledge and experience over all the different tutors across all of the course, then it could be over centuries worth of experience that you are benefiting from, so they can help you learn the subjects in the right order, at the right time, and to the right degree. In this sense, a course is like a time-space compression. It can condense decades worth of knowledge into just 1, 2, or 3 years, or however long your course lasts. At the National Film and Television School, our course is 2 years, and in the space of that 2 years, you get access to decades worth of knowledge, potentially, so that you can really make a difference when you go into the games industry. And that is why a course is just like a fast track. Now, the next reason is industry connectedness. I can pretty much guarantee you that whatever course you choose, including the course at the film school, we're pretty well connected to the games industry. And that means we're often in touch with games companies, people working at those companies. We're in a conversation with them, and when they're thinking about who we're going to hire for our next generation of employees and next generation of innovators, they're going to turn to the universities and the institutions where there are students ready to showcase their work and to showcase their achievements. Now, does that mean that you can't get into the games industry unless you take a course? Of course not. You can still be independent, you can still make your own games, you can still release them. It's just that it's a lot harder. You can make your life and your career run a lot smoother and a lot easier and give it the better chance by taking a course which gives you access to the knowledge to make games, and then when you're at the point of graduation, you can showcase the work that you've created here, and you can showcase it to visitors who come along to visit to the universities, who come along to visit at the film school and the institutions, and you can showcase your work to them and meet them directly. We have many people from many companies who are really interested in what students are creating now and who are going to be the future talent. And so they're looking to the work created by many institutions for their next generation of employees. Now, you may not, in fact, want to work at a game studio. Maybe you had plans to work as a games designer or a programmer at a big studio, but maybe instead you planned on creating your own company and being in the creative driver's seat, being the person who is going to be overseeing the entirety of a company or working with a small group of friends creating independent games. Even there, you can accelerate your career by going to an institution and taking a course. It might be that you're not seeking employment, but still there are people seeking investment opportunities who might be looking to students to further their interest. It might be that if you want to get funding to create your own games company, you can meet the relevant people to achieve that. You can showcase your work and get noticed, and you can develop connections, not necessarily at games companies, but you can develop connections across the industry more broadly, including the media, the press, and many other people who might be able to get your game the attention that it needs. So, secondly here, we've got institutions using as points of connections to the industry, people that can put you in touch with the right people. Now, the next way a course can benefit you is that it offers a structured pathway. Now, I don't mean that in the quite obvious sense that I mentioned before, where it can help you learn the subjects that you need in the right order at the right time. Sure, it can help you do that too. But I mean it in a much deeper sense. There's that phrase that it's good to cultivate good habits. You get into a good routine and that develops your working practice. So in terms of a structured pathway, the really great way a course can help you is that the labs and the department and the entire space of the building is often set up to simulate a real-world game studio. Many of the labs operate regular working hours, just like a game studio. They involve both independent work and teamwork, just like a game studio. You create projects both as an individual and as a group, and you're constantly working together with other people on practical projects, the kind of things you would be doing if you were really in a game studio. In addition to that, you're going to be working with mentors who are going to be shaping the project and guiding its direction, showing you tips and techniques for managing the projects and organizing its workflow so that the spaces themselves imitate the industry. This means that when you graduate from your course, on the final day of the course and you move into the industry and you start a job at a new game studio, you're not going to feel like a stranger in a strange land or a fish out of water, whatever metaphor that you want to use, right? You're not going to feel estranged from the place that you're going to. You're going to feel like, yes, I'm just picking up where I left off. All those habits that you cultivated back inside the games labs at your institution, you can bring with you to the games company that you go to, and from day one, you can be a productive member of the team. You don't need to feel that you're beginning day one and you're having to learn a whole new language, a whole new set of routines. This structure can be established from the very beginning of your course, and so long as you stick to that structure as you move throughout, you will find the transition from education to game studio pretty seamless. And that really is a great benefit to all. Now, the next one is a strange one. I've titled it Feedback, and perhaps it could also be retitled to Beware of the Echo Chamber. And let me explain what I mean by that. Let's imagine that you're not taking a course and you're developing your own game independently. It's very easy to become quite insular. The only people's opinions who you hear are your own and other members of the team. You develop a game and you know it's pretty good and you're very confident in that, but then you release it and it turns out that the wider public really didn't like what you made. Now, it might be that sometimes the criticism is unnecessarily harsh, but it might also be that they had a good point. When you go onto a games course, you're going to be hearing a lot of different opinions. The opinions of your peers, the opinions of tutors, and also the opinions of members of the public who come along to have a look at your work, in addition to opinions from people in the industry who you'll be showcasing too. These opinions, when you hear them, and if you hear them frequently, are incredibly valuable. It's easy to be afraid of the opinions and to run away from them because you're afraid of the criticism. But I know that even from my own experience, that when learning games development and when building games, it was the opinions of others, particularly the opinions that were quite critical, that really benefited me the most. They forced me to just take a pause in my own career and in my own work and to look at what I was doing and to reevaluate. Sure, praise is great and it feels good when it's exactly what you want to hear, but sometimes what you need the most to improve is that opposing point of view. And being able to accept criticism in this way is a critical skill. Being able to learn from it and improve from it is a critical skill in the games industry too. Many game studios have events called peer reviews. That's where you create work and other members of your team look at the work that you created and they engage in critique. Now, that's not to criticize your work for the sake of criticism. Nobody wants that. It is to be constructive and to try to find ways in which you can make your work better. And it's important always to listen to those points of view and to respond to them. When you go to an institution, you're going to be surrounded by feedback in so many different ways. And I don't just mean the standard formal feedback of tutors writing reports, right? I mean conversation, dialogue with other creative people who can really offer you important insights so long as you listen to them. There are so many great opportunities while on a course to get feedback from so many different people. It's important that you listen, but the opportunities are there. Now, the next reason to take a course is community. Put it simply, that is, when you take a course, you're going to be meeting a lot of people. Now, it's not as straightforward as that because you can meet a lot of people online, you can meet a lot of people in your neighborhood, you can meet a lot of people in many different places. But when you take a course, you're going to meet very specific people. Firstly, you're going to meet like-minded people, people who are interested in making games and playing games. They'll be your peers and they'll be tutors, and that's great. You'll have a creative interplay of ideas, you'll be able to have conversations with them, you'll be able to meet them in person or online and exchange ideas, and that's really great for inspiration whenever you're building video games. But that's not the only kind of meetings that are going to happen. You'll also meet students on other courses, and that's really important. It's important because when you create games, you want to make sure you don't close yourself off to other interests and just be 100% about the games. Gamey to game. You don't just want to be 100% games. Instead, listen to what other people in other disciplines have to say. For example, at the National Film and Television School, we don't just have a games course. We have a games course, the MA in Games Design and Development, right? But it sits alongside lots of other different courses, including courses in screenwriting, cinematography, composition, directing fiction, natural history, and many other areas. You get to meet students in other disciplines and have creative interchanges with those students. You can team up with them, make things together, share ideas, share critique, and listen to what other voices are saying outside of games. One of the reasons this is really, really important is because if you narrow your focus to just the games of today and just the games now, when you create games, your games will often resemble the ones that came before. But if you broaden your interests to areas outside of it, you'll bring in new ideas and new inspirations. And one thing that many games companies really love are people with new ideas. So by developing contact and communication, not just with students and tutors on your own course, you'll have that serendipity of meeting people on other courses, and you'll be surprised at what an impact that can make on your creativity. Now, another really important one I've listed that a course can offer you is career guidance. This is really important. It's very easy to just underestimate what kinds of roles are out there, what the industry is offering you right now. It's so easy to get excited about the game that you're making and to focus on just the content of your game, but to lose sight of what the industry is doing and what's available. So for example, inside the games industry, we have many different job roles available. The games designer is one of them. The role of the games designer is to think up ideas about what game are we going to make, how will the player work, how will the mechanics work, what will the levels look like, what will the story be, what will the mechanics of the game work out as. These are all questions that the designer has to answer. These are high-level questions about what kind of game you're going to make. That's the role of the designer. But alongside the designer, we have a range of other roles too. Very technical, but very important roles. Notably, we have the programmer. The programmer is going to be responsible for holding together the game logically, for defining the infrastructure, for creating the building blocks that's going to make the game hang together logically. In addition to the logic of the game, the programming, we also have the artist, the 3D artist, who is going to be building the 3D models and the miniatures and all the different characters and elements that populate the world. From buildings, from houses, trees, weapons, characters, facial animation, all kinds of stuff that's going to go into building that world, the artist is going to be sculpting all of that detail. In addition to the artist, we have the composer, the person who's going to be creating the music tracks for different areas of the world to really make it feel like a real place and to stir up the user's emotion. So we have all these different aspects of development and a lot more, including, for example, the producer, who is going to be responsible for how our resource is going to be managed. Who are we going to hire in the team? How are we going to spend our time? When will things get done? There are so many different job roles. Those are just a smattering of them, but there are many more. And you'll want to have a think about where you want to be in the industry. Now, interestingly, you don't need to answer that question before you begin a course. It's okay for that question to answer itself further along the line as you get more experience of the games industry and making games so that you can finalize an answer to that question. I would say the sooner you can answer that question honestly, the better. But if you can't answer it right now, that doesn't need to be a reason not to take a course, because that answer can emerge as you sample more different areas of games development. So career guidance is really important because many aspects of your course will be specifically designed to help you find your place in the industry. When you're creating work on your course and you're talking with tutors, don't just see the games that you make on the course as being throwaway pieces, things that you complete only for a course to be assessed by tutors. Don't think of the games that way. When you make a game on your course, think of every single game as a commercial piece that you're adding to your portfolio so that when you graduate, you're not graduating just as some nameless graduate. You are going to be a member of the industry, having completed a whole body of work, a whole body of games that people can play and enjoy. And on your course, as you progress, your tutors, your peers, and even your work itself will be able to help you answer the question as to where in the games industry do I fit? And once you've answered that question, the course will be able to help you develop a plan to target for those different industries. And again, here at the National Film and Television School, we have connections across a range of different companies where we've helped many students who have come onto the course find their ideal role in the games industry, whether it's a designer, a producer, an animator, a composer, or whatever. The important thing is to figure out where you want to be, and then we can help you target that. Now, another area of your development where a games course can be of value to you is generally as personal development. Some people might call it soft skills, some people might call it professional skills. What I'm referring to here are the things that many game development tutorials don't teach you. When you go to take a game development tutorial, it's very often focused on something technical. Maybe it's teaching you how to program a game, or it's teaching you how to build the 3D models that go into the game, or it's teaching you about how to make music or maybe all of those things together. It's focusing on practical how-to skills of how do you use the tools and how do you use the software. But there's a lot more to games than just that. After all, games are technical things that are made by teams, and teams are formed of people. Now, a team is not just a group of isolated individuals who happen to have been thrown into the same room. They're supposed to work together as a single unit to build a game. And doing that successfully requires a whole bunch of skills that very often are not taught in tutorials, but are things that a course can really help you with. And that's partly because the course is run like game studios, bringing you into a team and bringing you into the company of tutors and experienced professionals who have worked in that kind of environment. For example, if you want to be a games designer or a programmer, you might think that very often what those people are doing can be isolated to individuals and that they don't need to communicate. But that is very far from the truth. If you're a programmer, for example, the stereotypical image of a programmer coding away in the corner of a room, never having to talk to other people, very, very wrong. The programmer frequently needs to communicate their ideas to others. If a programmer is sharing code and is sharing programming and knowledge with other members of the team, they'll need to express those ideas succinctly so the other people can understand what you're talking about, and you can build up a picture in your mind and a shared understanding. In addition to that, you want to make sure that you have developed empathy and the ability to be a team worker. That means several things. One, it means feeling a need to communicate and to share knowledge and to share ideas with other members of your team, but also to spot the times maybe when other members of your team are feeling stressed or are feeling something very, very difficult and they're really struggling with a particular challenge, and you can identify those moments where maybe you can lend them a helping hand and help out that member of the team to raise the team overall and to be a great member of that studio. So here we have personal and professional skills. In addition to that, another really important skill that you'll learn on a course is resource management. Every single time you go to create a new piece of code, to design a new game, to build a new 3D model, you're going to be using your time to do that. And time is a precious resource. Once you've spent it, you can't get it back. Time is a one-way thing. And as a result of that, you want to keep in mind what you're going to be using your time to do and to spend that wisely. And that's not just some random decision. That's something that comes about after a very careful, informed analysis. And these kinds of skills, these kinds of professional skills about making the right decisions to the right degree in the right situation, these are not something that you can just pick up from a single tutorial, but from the benefit of experience, mentorship, and guidance. And a course can offer you a really invaluable environment to pick up these skills and to develop them there before you move to a game studio where you can apply them with a lot of experience. Now, the final point is a very strange one indeed, but stay with me on this. It's about coming to terms with failure. Now, that seems strange because who would want to take a course or pursue a career in games and expect failure? Well, nobody. And you shouldn't try to aspire to failure. But really important is that be prepared in any journey, whether it's your career as a game developer, whether it's on a course, you're going to be experiencing moments where things go wrong. You make plans and those plans aren't realized because there's a spanner in the works and something gets in the way. Now, if you're working independently, or if you've gone to a game studio and you're already working at a game studio, you'll know that the cost of your mistakes, the cost of problems can be incredibly high. There have been game studios who've been brought to their knees and brought to ruin because of the cost of very expensive mistakes. Now, you don't want that kind of failure happening to you, but certainly on a games course, the cost of failure is a lot less, because when you're in that environment with other people learning games development, you want to experiment and see new ideas. You want to try out new games, new styles of games. Maybe they'll succeed, maybe they won't, But you know, if they don't succeed, you can just learn from your mistakes and move on. You can move on to the next project and learn from those mistakes and apply the changes that you need to make. Great. The cost of that was pretty much nothing, and in fact you benefited from those mistakes because you'd learnt from them. And here's another really important thing. Many game studios are constrained by very, very real limitations. Limited money, limited resources, limited time, limited staff. As a result of that, there are real constraints on the kinds of games that many studios are willing to make. Sometimes they're quite risk averse. There are certain risks they just won't take because they're costly. And yet, in an educational setting where you have the support of your tutors, the support of the institution, the resources available to you, you can try out quirky new ideas. Maybe they'll work out, maybe they won't. But you can be brave and experiment. And if you do come across a winning idea, you can refine that, you can improve that, and you can turn it into something that is eminently commercial and eminently going to be accepted at many game studios. When you graduate with your new ideas and your new tried and tested experiments, maybe there's something, a valuable gem among them that you can take with you on your career, not just to become a replicator of the games of the past, but an innovator of games of the future. So educational institutions like the NFTS on Our Games course, they can be a safe space in which you have the freedom to experiment. Maybe you succeed and maybe you fail, but failure in this instance is nothing to fear because it can be your best friend. So over the course of this video, I've presented 8 different reasons as to why taking a course at an institution like the National Film and Television School might be a great choice for you. If you're looking into the games industry and maybe you don't even have any past experience of games, it could be just the thing you need to turn your life and to turn your career around. In closing, I'd like to say a little bit about the Games Design and Development MA degree that we have here at the National Film and Television School and some of the great things that it can offer you. First of all, it's a 2-year MA, and we don't require that you have any prior games experience. We've had people come onto the course from all backgrounds, neuroscientists, kickboxing instructors, journalists, and all over have decided that they wanted to make a change and get into the games industry. In the first year of the course, we teach you the range of technical skills that you need to start building games independently. This includes programming, art, animation, design, and lots more. Then in the second year of our course, it is 1 year, 1 student, 1 game. You get the entirety of that second year to focus on a game of your design. You can collaborate with people across the film school on the other courses, just like I mentioned that the collaboration both within and outside of games is incredibly important. You can put together a team of people and build a portfolio masterpiece so that when you graduate, you have the best chances of getting on that career path that you want. So these are the 2 years of the Games Design and Development MA degree at the National Film and Television School in the UK. If you fancy living and studying in the UK and learning how to make video games with me and the rest of our tutors at the film school, then why not take a look at our website, nfts.co.uk. I hope you stop by and take a look at the course. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Take care.